Doubt it. It's always a gamble. See what takes and what doesn't. Let's see. TikTok's on. YouTube's on. That's it. It seems to be, yeah, Facebook no-go. I followed their directions, but no, that's okay. We have the two. All right.
Yeah, when you go into add channels and it shows the Facebook icon, it says it's trying to send data, but it's unable to connect.
Yeah, I saw that. It does. It just continues doing that on one of them, which is the one I set up last week. I mean, it's their stream key. I copied and pasted their stream key. I have no idea. All right. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. You look so serious. What are you doing? Tell us what you're doing.
Looking at the
What? Looking at porn? Huh?
that it's mastectomy porn. Relax.
Ooh. Wait, you should only look at mine. Mastectomy porn. That should be a thing. In order for it to be porn, I couldn't show mine. Because it'd be porn. All right. Are you ready? I'm going to go ahead and go. It's 6:59. Ready, Freddy? Tell me when you're ready. Because I'm not editing this out, so everybody's listening, and they're like, get on with it. What are you guys doing? Are you ready, Mike?
Indeed, I am.
Well, then say so.
Let's do this thing.
All right. Well, hello and welcome back to Unfiltered Real Talk with Christine and
As Michael.
There you go. We are happy that you are here tonight. It is Tuesday. What is today? February 24th, 2026. Oh my goodness. And we are here. Should we share our contact information before we get going? And then we'll share it again at the end.
Sure. How can they reach us?
Okay. So if you want to reach me, just it is Christine at Real Talk. No, it's Real Talk. It should be Christine at Real Talk. It's Real Talk with Christine at gmail.com. Real Talk with Christine at gmail.com. And I'll answer.
And if you want to reach me, it's shitlesspodcast at gmail.com.
I always make that face when you say
that. Because I have another show too. So if you like scary movies, check it out.
I guess shitless is better than shitted. Shitted?
Just call me a shithead?
No. So how are you doing, Mike?
Not unwell.
Yeah?
Yourself?
Still healing. I saw the doctor yesterday and I am progressing enough that I don't have to see her again for 3 months. Yay. But I do have to go see the plastic surgeon. Probably have another surgery, but probably not for about, 2 or 3 months, maybe even a little bit longer. I don't know. I haven't seen him, so I'll find out. But yeah, things are progressing. Slowly but surely, which is probably the best way. So, yeah. So, I'm just going to jump right in and tell
Oh,
you
it is
guys
that
what
time, isn't it? Okay.
it is that time.
Yeah.
What time's that?
7:01.
Yes, that's why I introduced the show. That's usually the indication that we're starting.
I thought we were still in the preliminaries. I'm like, okay.
No. All right, Mike, get with it. Guys, we sound a little off tonight. It's not me, it's him. Okay. So the topic tonight is actually, I find this very interesting. I mentioned this to Mike the other day and asked him what he thought about it. Gave him a lot of feelings. but but he agreed that it sounds like something that we could talk about. And I think, sorry about that. I think we're going to find out that he and I have some different thoughts on the topic, but let me tell you what it is. So, if you are in a relationship, a committed relationship, whatever that means, married, not married, long term, and your partner, your significant other tells you one day, I mean, like, you guys are fine, right? I mean, it's not like you're breaking up or anything, but they break up with you and they tell you that they've fallen in love with somebody else. Somebody else is their person and they're leaving, and they do. And then, 6 months or however long, that's an arbitrary number, later, they contact you and send you a message and tell you, hey, I just want you to know I don't expect anything from this, but I thought it was, something you should know. You are my person, and I made a mistake, and I'm no longer with that person. It was wrong. I am sorry. I apologize for what I've done to you. That's all I wanted to say. How would that affect you? I mean, when I because this happens, right? And okay, first off, I want to know from Mike, has it ever happened to you? Have you ever done it to anybody? Have you ever known anybody that this has happened to? Anything like that? Any personal experience? And then I want to know what you would think about it, if it did happen to you. And I guess we could talk in terms of us, since we're in a long term relationship together. We might as well. He might as well. You, Mike, might as well talk as if I did that to you, and how you would deal with it and what you would think about it. So go, your turn.
So no. Thankfully, nothing like that has ever happened to me, and I haven't really done anything like that to anyone else as far as a breakup. Now, I guess the closest thing would be I did break up with a woman that I was with for roughly 5 years, who was 28 years older than me. We were together when I was very young, and we ended up separated by a long distance, and I ended up ghosting her, which I always felt horrible about, especially after having had a relationship with her for so long. But
Well, now
years,
wait a minute. Explain that. So, did you say you were long distance at that point?
yes,
What? How long distance? And how
like
often?
New Jersey versus Indiana.
Okay. And so, were you still seeing each other occasionally, or was it strictly correspondence?
At that point, it was just correspondence. When at the point at which I started ghosting her was it had been long distance for at least a year.
Okay, so you were no longer intimate or anything. You no longer really had a relationship, but you did. You hadn't had the final cut,
Right.
and you just ghosted her.
Yeah, I was in my mid 20s, early to mid 20s, and just, again, when I got older, I think I reached out to her when I was in my early 30s, and I sent a letter to her via the only way I knew how to contact her, and just apologized, and I didn't say anything like you were my person, but I did talk about how great I felt the relationship was and how wrong it was of me to ghost her.
So you didn't
And
say I made a mistake. I should have stayed. You just said it was
no,
wrong.
I didn't say I should have stayed with you. I just said I felt bad.
Right.
Um, Now, how would I respond to someone who had broken up with me, who did that to me? Like if it was you?
Yeah.
So I've got a gut instinct, and then I've got a an actual. If you think about it for 15 minutes before you send the email response, you know what I mean? Like, so there's feelings, right, that would drum up, that would boil up in me, that I
Yeah.
would be like, oh, yes, you did make a mistake, and F you, and yada, yada, just all the feels. But I think that I would not send that response if I even did send a response. I guess it would depend on the terms of the breakup, how abrupt it was, how long we had been together. Um, my heart tells me that I would just forgive you and say, wait, it's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. Thank you for reaching out. Is there any way we can reconcile? I feel like if the person who sent you that message honestly feels like they made a mistake and that you are actually their person, that would be the proper response if you're in a place in life where you're able and willing to work it out
Right,
or
because what if
pursue
you're in
that,
another
right?
relationship?
Yeah. What about
So,
you? What if I did it to you?
um, yeah, no.
Ah,
No. If you did it to me,
right, because your person would not do that to you.
well, true, but shit happens, and if you did it to me, um, so if it was something I wasn't expecting and we were in a good place and I loved you and everything and you did it to me. Like if you did it to me tomorrow, I guess it would depend on how soon you came back to me and said that. If it was months later, no, because the way that I get over something is I build a wall. Um, and once that wall is up, it's impenetrable. Um, yeah, so there wouldn't be any going back for me. And I would probably feel bad for you. um,
I effed
because
up.
yeah, I
Yes,
would
you
feel bad
did.
for you because I've moved on and it doesn't hurt me. Because at that point, when I'm there mentally and emotionally, it doesn't hurt me anymore. Now, if you came back in the first few weeks, first month, I would obviously be cautious, but it would be way different. I would be way more apt to be open to being persuaded. But see, maybe that's not why what you're doing because that's kind of the other part of what I wanted to talk about regarding this because what is the person's motivation? Because they're the way that I presented this was that they're just saying, look, I don't expect anything out of this. Um, I just it's I feel like it's right for you to know, and I feel like that's kind of selfish. I feel like it's self-serving. I feel like the motivation is that you're hoping that there's going to be a part of them that's going to say, "Oh yes, thank God, I've just been sitting here pining away for you,
Mm.
and so I'm going to come back." But that's not necessarily true for everybody. But I do think that that would be a big. I think a big percentage of people that would be their motivation, and I think when people do that, sometimes I guess because the question is, should you tell somebody that? If you realize after the fact that you made a mistake, should you tell them? Should you give them that closure? Is that necessary? Because I'm sure there's some people like me, I would actually, and I think you would too, have that feeling inside like, I did you wrong. I feel this way and I feel like you need to know because I feel like it would give you some satisfaction, some validation, maybe help you. But sometimes, no matter how much you think you're doing it to help the other person, sometimes it's best to keep things to yourself, even when it's something that you just know they deserve to know. I mean, it's just going to hurt them. It's not going to be good. It's going to cause havoc. So, like, a different, completely different scenario, but same thought process as far as sometimes doing the right thing is actually keeping something to yourself, even well, just keeping something to yourself. So, for example, without naming, names and everything, I was abused by somebody. in my family. And I struggled for years once I got older, whether I should tell my parents about it or not. And
I'm sorry that that happened to you, baby.
you know, happens to a lot of us, right? But I struggled back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And ultimately I did not tell my parents, and it was my mother that bothered me the most, that I knew how it would affect her. And so I think that people don't think about that. Eh, how is it going to affect them? Is your truth going to cause more harm? Is this something that they just don't need to hear? And it would be the same thing with this. If you're not looking to reconcile with them, if you're saying right from the start, I don't expect anything out of this, that's not why I'm doing this, then you need to a examine your motivation. Is that true? Because if that's not true, you need to be clear. I am hoping that this will change. I'm hoping you're available. Be clear, be honest. But if you truly aren't looking for reconciliation, if you're truly not looking for them to come back to you, then you need to look at what you're doing to them. How could this affect their life? Is it actually something they need to hear? Is it going to benefit them in any way? That validation that you're giving them, is it going to be a ultimately something good for them, for their mentality? What if they're in another relationship and you were the love of their life and you still are? Now look what you have done to their life and to another person. And what if they have kids? I don't know. This could be so far reaching. So I have a hard time with this type of thing. I think people don't put enough long-term thought. They don't think it through to the end, which is what I think we're all guilty of. Well, I mean, I like to think I'm not too guilty of it. I'm sure I used to be, which is why I'm sort of a little bit anal about it now. I really take things from point A to point Z, walk it all the way through. I look at all the different scenarios. How could it go wrong? How could it go right? And I try to weigh, is there more good or more bad before I do something? Or should I tweak it this way or tweak
Yeah,
it
well,
this way?
that's a benefit that you and I have being over 50, having lived a certain amount of life, right? There's some wisdom that comes with that,
Yeah.
as well as self-realization, But I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about, what if they have worked something out with someone else, maybe even had kids or whatever. And then earlier you had mentioned the difference for you might be how long a time had passed between the breakup.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that really, more than anything else, would be the biggest difference for me as well,
And
and
it's
probably for
sad.
most people.
It's sad if that person truly was your person, truly was your soulmate, your one and only. And the person that you're talking to has worked through everything. Just because they've worked through it and moved on doesn't mean they are over you. You know, it I mean, they can be that's nuanced. They're over you, but it doesn't mean they didn't have to mourn it. It doesn't mean that they didn't have to wish it didn't end, that they didn't know in their heart of hearts that you were their person and you made a mistake. So yeah, in some sense, that validation would be nice, but I think in this type of a scenario, especially if your person has moved on, I don't think it's going to benefit them in any
No,
way
I
to.
agree 100%. There's a couple, you know me, I'm a movie geek, right? There's a couple of movies that instantly come to mind when it comes to this kind of dynamic. One of them is The Dead Zone with Christopher Walken, which is famous because he goes into a coma after an accident, wakes up years later, and he's got psychic powers. But how it ties into this is that he was in love and engaged and about to get married. And when he wakes up from the coma years and years later, she's moved on with her life, and he's struggling whether he wants to even talk to her because he knows that she has picked up the pieces and moved on. And it's like you said, you really need to ask yourself, what is your motivation for approaching this person with your truth, which is, hey, you were my person, and then if you add the additional dynamic of I was an idiot and I screwed everything up, and now I'm going to lay all that baggage and guilt on you,
Yeah.
what is your real motivation? So when you start off the letter that you're talking about, when you started off with, I'm not looking for anything, to me, that's BS. You actually are looking for something. You're looking for absolution. You're looking to share your guilt with someone. You're looking for a lot of things, or you wouldn't send the letter to begin with, right?
Okay, that's true. But that right there is where my issue with whether you move forward or not it lies. Because if your motivation is that you want absolution, um, but you don't want to be with them, that's different. Now, it's not their responsibility to give you absolution, but I don't think there's anything wrong with asking the person that you harmed for absolution. I think when it becomes a problem in this type of scenario is when you have ulterior motives, like it's not just absolution you're looking for. You're actually hoping that by getting absolution, it's going to lead to reconciliation. And if you have that in your heart, it's a no-go.
And then from the other person's perspective, if that's the case, how could they not? How could they possibly not feel like a backup plan? You know?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Well, it didn't work out with this person that I'm
I,
with because I'm
well,
having these feelings of
yeah, but what if
whatever.
okay, but what if it's not that it didn't work out? What if it's that they just didn't want it, that they woke up 6 months later or a year later or even 10 years later and just said, what did I do? And then they blindside the other person. Now, and this is a problem because now they're doing to the person they left you for what they did to you. But again, this is just one of those situations. They could honestly say to themselves, no, I made a effing mistake. And it's taken me so long to realize that you were my person. But that still doesn't make it okay, because at the end of the day, if you end up alone, because the right thing to do is not to stay with this person because you don't love them the way they deserve to be loved. And that means that there's probably somebody out there who can love them fully the way that they should be loved. And you can't go back to the person you left because they've started a new life or they've gotten over you. So if the only option is that you're alone, too bad. That's what happens. Those are the consequences of being an adult and making your adult decisions.
You're either going to be alone or you're going to take the advice of that song, right? If you can't be with the one you love, love the one you're with, right? How many
True,
literally billions of people do that on a daily basis?
true, but we're getting into the waters, the murky waters of morality and ethics. Does she or he stay with the person they're with because they don't want to harm the person they left? Well, that if they aren't in love with them and they have come to this realization, that's not fair to them. But is it? This is such, as I said, it's so nuanced and you have to put a lot of thought into it. And I don't think people are willing to put that much
Here's an
thought into.
interesting hypothetical. What if the person that you're with, after you broke up with your soulmate, right, and you sent them this message, what if they find the message?
Right.
Should they stay with you or drop you like a rock? Like, obviously, I'm not your
Well,
person, so what are you doing with me?
yeah, but again, and that's going to depend on how much they're in love with you. I mean, there's some people who are so in love with you that they will say, okay, they'll talk to you. Okay, what happened? Did they respond? How do you feel about this? How do you feel today? I know what you wrote, but how are you feeling right now? And they want to hear it. And they are so willing to hear you say, nothing happened. I feel better for saying it, but I want to be with you. That's what they want to hear. And even if the person doesn't say it in those words, they're so in love, they're going to open the door and say, I still want you. This doesn't change it for me. I don't like that you did it. And I want to know that there's no danger here, but I want us. And that happens. But on the other hand, like if it was me,
Yeah, I
no,
don't think those words would ever go away. I know that you were my person. Like, that's just,
no,
that would
I
hurt
agree.
way too much
I,
for me to be able to continue in a relationship thinking that you
I
were my
agree.
person when it's clear
I,
to you or clear to both of us at this point, now that I've seen your true feelings, that you don't feel the same way that I feel about you.
I agree. I agree. But that doesn't change the fact that there are men and women out there who stay with people because they love them more than they are loved. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, how
Yeah.
sad is that, right? But so
It
many love
is.
songs and movies and everything else are based
It
on the
is
pain
very
that
sad.
comes with that, yeah.
And sometimes it's as you said, it's the love the one you're with, but usually it's not that. I mean, sometimes that is, they finally find somebody and they're not willing to let it go for anything because they don't want to be alone. And I'm sure that happens a lot. But sometimes it literally is that that person feels like that they're with their person. It's unrequited, yes, but they're not willing to let it go because they will take anything they can get with that person. And it is sad. It's
Well,
very
I want
sad.
to tie this into what we talked about last week as well. This would be assuming that they actually believe that there's a such thing as my person, a soulmate, the person I'm supposed to be with for the rest of my life. Not everybody subscribes to that belief. And a person in this situation, of course, if they wrote a letter, right, saying that, you were my person and I screwed up and I just want you to know that, then that kind of person believes that. But maybe the person they're with doesn't necessarily believe that. Maybe they believe that we're in a good relationship. It's reciprocal. We love each other. Clearly, we do things for each other. Love is an action, right? And it
Yeah,
wouldn't affect them as much as, say, someone who believed that, the person who sent that message was their person. And now their person, quote unquote, doesn't believe the same thing. Does that
right.
make sense?
Yeah. Um, Look, if you don't believe in the whole love at first sight or having your person, your soulmate, then that message isn't probably gonna bother you too much. You're just gonna think it was some high emotions happening at the
Right. You were feeling
time.
sentimental and
Yeah.
guilty, and hope you got that off your chest.
Exactly. And again, it has to do with how much either they don't want to be alone or how much they love them because there's plenty of people that are okay with unrequited love. So I don't, we have this person, Canada Dry, on ice. I don't know what I don't know what the problem is. But I did end up blocking that person. Um, just because they're like, this is brutal. So
Yeah,
you know,
fuck them.
feels a little like a troll to me. So just, I did. But anyway, so yeah, there are people I think that would stay simply for one of those two reasons. Me, myself, I've been in that situation. I mean, I haven't been in the situation of somebody telling me they want to leave, but I was this close. And when I read the stuff he wrote, it was that because I read a live in the moment conversation between him and her. And this was my husband at the time. We'd been married for about 13 or 14 years. And I was reading the conversation, and they were exchanging I love yous, and they were exchanging how they wish they were married to each other. He actually said the words, I wish I married you, not her. So that's basically the same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And how did I deal with it? See, now, and this is what I said, it would depend on where I was at in the moment, right? So what I did was I told him that I was willing to stay, and the reason why was because I didn't want the family to know what he had done. I was protecting my kids more than him. I just didn't want them to know. My kids have been through a lot. My family, well, my extended family hadn't been through a lot, but my kids and me had been through a lot. And we had finally found this stability, and I wasn't willing to throw it away. And it's not like, okay, I wasn't out there cheating. I wasn't out there looking. I wasn't flirting. I wasn't doing anything like that. So it's not like I was sitting there, waiting to run out there and start dating. I had no interest because I had been married over 10 years.
okay, you
I
had a moral compass. Get out of here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I had no interest. So I didn't have that pulling at me. I'm sure if I was the kind of person who was looking elsewhere, um, if I was entertaining guys who were interested in things like that, I'm sure that I could have looked at that like a lot of people do. I could have looked at it as the opportunity to get out and start going and having some fun. My kids were adults. They were out of the house. I could have taken him to the cleaners and gone and just, lived it up. But I didn't think that way. And so I told him I would stay as long, I mean, I would do the best I could. I couldn't promise it would be great because he did what he did and there was no taking back the words. And fortunately for me, also, he wasn't my person. If he had been my person, I would have been devastated.
Oh, of
But he
course.
was,
Yeah. I mean, what kind of betrayal is that? Yeah.
yeah, but he wasn't my person. He was, I mean, especially at this point, he was a person. He was
Yeah.
someone I shared my life with, of
He
course,
was the
and
one you were with.
yeah, he was. And I was with him for a lot of different reasons, mostly because of stability and family, and
Sure.
we were good together, and it gave my kids a good life, and
Yeah.
I think we
So many
both
women all over the world in the same
yeah,
exact boat.
and I think we both, benefited from the relationship. He certainly didn't come up short in any way. And we stayed together another 9 years. So we ended up, I mean, we didn't even get divorced until we'd been married for 23 years. So I did pretty good. But having said that, if you did it to me, um, like tomorrow, as we sit today, the way we feel and the way I feel, if you came to me and did it, I would be, mystified. I'd be blindsided, devastated. Um, you would obviously you'd go away. That's the way the scenario goes. You'd go away, and then I would I it would take me, I don't know how long, but basically if you came back,
In a matter of weeks.
yeah, if you came back in a matter of weeks, I'm going to be angry, and I'm going to be, all kinds of bent out of shape. Um and me being me, I'm going to want to talk and talk and talk and hear and ask terribly uncomfortable questions
Yeah, it'd be
and
like starting over all over again. You got to vet me again and
yeah,
whatever. Like who the
yeah,
hell am I with, or who the hell am I trying to be with here?
yeah. And yeah, there'd be a lot of mistrust, but I would still be interested in trying.
Yeah,
Um, if it was months down the line,
mm,
I'm
yeah.
afraid that, like I said, I put up a wall so that it stops hurting because I can't. I'm very emotional. I'm a very emotional
Okay,
person.
but the real question, based on how this topic began, was if I sent you that message, how would you respond, or would you even respond?
Uh, well, again, it depends on how far out it was. If you sent that message a few weeks later, I would probably respond back and say, "Yeah, you're a dumbass." That's probably the
Let's
first
have
thing I'd say.
coffee and see if this is worth salvaging or whatever.
Probably
Okay,
not, probably not,
let's talk about
probably not,
months.
probably not. I'd probably call you a dumbass and an idiot, and then I would probably allow some texting back and forth, and yes, eventually, and it probably would only take a couple
So it
days.
really would be like completely starting over. Yeah,
It would, and I would have to see, you'd have to make effort. I'm
yeah,
not just gonna no, I am not just gonna go, "Okay, let's meet." No, I'm
right.
gonna I want effort because now I have to look at you and I have to know what you did,
Yeah,
that you doubted that I was your person, you know?
that makes sense.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna wanna see effort, but if it was a few months later, how would I respond? I would respond. I am not the kind of person
Yeah,
that would.
you be responding to all kinds of folks, so that doesn't surprise me.
Right, you know me. I talk to anybody, it's just that part of me that's very
Yeah,
polite, and I do the right thing. But I wouldn't do it right away because I'd really have to put some thought into it because what I'd wanna say is "fuck off,"
right, exactly.
but I wouldn't, that's not me, I wouldn't do it. So I would think about it, and it'd either be a matter of hours or maybe a day or so, and then I would reply. I don't honestly know what I would say because it would take me some time, but it would be a negative.
Yeah, oh, for
It
sure. Yeah.
it would probably be something along the lines of that I feel very sorry for you,
Mhm.
and that, there is no that I hear what you're saying, that you're not looking for an opportunity, and that's good because there is no opportunity here.
Right. Yeah, let's
Um,
be clear. Yeah.
yeah, and I would tell you that it's sad. It's sad that you came to this conclusion, um, and that you ever doubted us. I would say some stuff that would probably make you feel like shit.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, because I would be adult and I would be calm and I'd be really nice, and it would probably, I mean, just going on how I would feel if that was the kind of reply I got, I would feel it would shove it in my face what I had lost. That I had lost this person who would have always worked with me, would
Yeah.
have always
And
accepted
maybe
me.
that's what you were looking for. Maybe that was your motivation for sending the message was you need to feel, what that other person thinks and feels about what you did. It's a very deep, complicated thing. If you really believe that somebody's your person and somehow you fuck that up, I don't know how I would handle that, to be honest. And I've been married twice. I've had, girlfriends and whatnot, but
You don't
like,
know how you'd handle it if I did that to you?
yeah, yeah, Jesus wept, it's or vice versa. If I suddenly felt this weird, like, oh gosh, I screwed up my previous relationship or whatever, like that's for one, I don't see anything like that happening. I've already dealt with all the any kind of guilt I was going to have over all of my previous relationships, but that's the thing. Before you get into a new relationship, make sure you've dealt with all that baggage beforehand, which is why I agree with you in previous conversations we've had about this. Probably you should wait before you start dating again if you get out of a long-term relationship. There
Yeah.
really should be, like, I would say, a long period of time, at least 6 months, before
Well,
you really start putting yourself out there again.
I think people should be honest with themselves and give themselves one question before they start dating. At least before they start dating where they may want to monogamy date.
Yeah.
And that question would be, if X came back tomorrow, would I be
And
interested?
I remember you asking me that question.
Yeah, because it's
Which
a
is a
valid
totally
question.
valid and fair question, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's something that you want the person that you're gonna date or be with or whatever to have wrestled with, you know,
Yeah.
hopefully with plenty of time before they start dating you, so, yeah,
Well, and the problem is not enough people out there are honest with themselves and they don't care or they don't think through the consequences of something to realize that if they're not honest with themselves about the answer to that question, if they avoid the question or lie to themselves about the question, that they're hurting the person that they're going to monogamy date more than themselves only because and it's really not more of a pained hurt, it's not more of an emotional hurt, but it's more of an unfair hurt
yeah.
because you can do that to yourself, but to do that to an unsuspecting person, especially a person who asked you point blank that question and you lie to them or you avoid looking at the answer and you
Or
just
you
tell
don't examine yourself enough to give an honest
right.
answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then you don't just hurt them, but you are terribly unfair to them. And fuck your feelings. I don't care if you hurt yourself. Um, you're hurting an unsuspecting person who's doing their due diligence here.
yeah.
And that's just so wrong.
Well, and
Which
I
yeah,
brought it up earlier, how could they not feel like there's some kind of backup plan then, How could they feel like you would ever really put them first, if you
well, see, and I just can't get on board with that 100%. I think that's true in a lot of cases, for sure. But I do think there are people out there who genuinely screw up and go with someone else thinking that the last, like 10 years have been a mistake. I thought I had this, I thought I had, but wow, and for whatever reason, whether it's a midlife crisis or some other, you can have a so-called midlife crisis at any age, and it can be brought on by any kind of crisis. Um, so a death, a loss of a job, a loss
yeah,
of all kinds of things can trigger.
medical issues,
Yeah,
etcetera, yeah.
all kinds of things can trigger that kind of a crisis where you'll suddenly think that the relationship you've been so clear about it wasn't what you thought it was, and then you go off, and then once you get through that emotional issue, that crisis, and you work through that, now you're looking at the person lying next to you going, what the fuck have I done? This person, as lovely as they are, is not my person, and my person is that person that I thought was my person, you know. And that is a true thing. That is a true thing. And that does not make them a backup plan. That makes them your person. And it makes you, unfortunately, a victim of an emotional crisis. And you made really bad decisions during an emotional crisis, which, the big lesson would be, don't make decisions during emotional crisis. You know when you're having emotional crisis if you care to stop and think about it. Okay, if there's been a major death that has affected you, if you care to stop long enough to examine it and be honest with yourself, you don't even have to acknowledge how it affected you. All you have to acknowledge is it happened. It happened. I might not recognize I'm in crisis, but it happened. So it's very possible I'm in crisis and I don't recognize it, which is usually how that works. When you're in crisis, you almost never recognize you're in crisis, or you deny it.
All right. Well, I want to make sure I'm fully wrapping my head around your, tendency to disagree with the backup plan
Yeah.
analogy.
Well,
So,
I don't disagree with that 100%. I just don't think it
right.
happens
So
every
just
time.
take my case. Okay. You know
Uh-huh.
that I'm coming from a divorce, that I was separated for 2 years before or not quite 2 years before I chose to start dating and completely severed the relationship. But if I were to have a crisis of conscience and say, you know what, um, she came back to me months after we started dating, so let's say tomorrow, and came back and said, I really want you back. I don't care that you were dating other people. I don't care what happened in the past. Let's make this work. And I was like, hey, she reached out to me and said this. I'm having mixed feelings or whatever. How would you deal with that? How could you, if I even entertained it at all, how could
How would
you
I
offer
deal
me
with it?
like a backup plan? You know what I mean? Like,
If you did that in our relationship, I would tell you to leave.
yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. I would say,
And I
I
would say
wish
the
you well.
same thing, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't even matter, how long we had been together. If it happened a
No.
year down the road, 2 years, whatever.
If
Um,
I found out, if I found messages, if I overheard a conversation that indicated to me that you were entertaining the thought, it would kill everything. I mean, I'm not saying that all of a sudden you wouldn't be my person. I'm saying that wall that I build,
would go
it
right up. Yeah.
it would go so quick, because I would just protect myself immediately, because that's bullshit I wouldn't mess with. I'm not going there. I am too damn
Well, and that's
old.
what I meant by backup plan. Like, how could you not feel like ultimately you were just a backup plan, and that all along the caveat was, well, yes, I'm divorced, yes, I'm separated, yes, I'm no longer with this person, and I don't want to be with this person. But if they were to come to me, with
Okay.
X offer and Y offer and Z offer, maybe I would go back. And actually, it's funny, we did have this conversation before, and I answered you, which was no. I've already, come to terms with what if she came back, because you asked me that, right? You were like, well, what if she came back to you and yada, yada, yada. And my answer was still no, because of reasons, right? I'm not going to get into, all of the personal reasons, but I did spell them out for you. Here is exactly why I would still say no, even if she came back, right? And offered me blah, blah, blah. So,
So the reason that I would be done with it, regardless of whether you acted on it or whether I found evidence that you'd been entertaining it, would be twofold. Meaning, could be for two reasons that it happened, but regardless of which one it was, my response would be the same, which would be to leave. One, it could be that I was a backup plan, that you never severed it. You thought, and you being you, I would assume, that you thought you had, and it was just very, very deep emotional bullshit that it was what it was. Um, and yeah, I was a backup plan. Maybe you didn't mean it maliciously, but that's what I was. Two, there is the possibility, and I would lean more towards this, that I was no backup plan, that I was exactly to you what I felt like, what you felt like I was, that I was the best thing that you'd ever had. But you were too weak willed to say no. That and this is actually the thing that worried me the most. And
Which is
and
why you ended up asking me the very specific questions that you
yeah,
did.
yeah. Which is that it would be the guilt of it. It would be, well, I still have a kid at home, and it would be the right thing to do regardless of whether I'm miserable or not. I have to do the right thing by him, period. So this isn't about me and you. It's not about how much I want to be with you. I deserve this. It doesn't matter how miserable I am. And it wouldn't matter with your head in that space. It wouldn't matter that you're also making me miserable. And you being you, after shit calmed down and you left and I kicked your ass out and I don't want to talk to you ever again, you'd start having crisis towards what you did to me. And you'd be like, oh my God, I didn't even think about what I was doing to her. All that mattered at the time was what I was doing to, my family. Yeah. And I know you would have all these crises, but that is something that it's just the way it is. And
Yeah,
those are
and
the
I would say the same thing if it happened in reverse. If one of your exes reached out to you and you were like, "Yeah, we were together forever, and why did we ever break up?" And obviously,
You're
you can
lucky
take.
because I don't have anybody in my life like that. So you
Well,
are
no,
lucky.
thankfully, right? Yeah, right. You're at I guess, a tactical disadvantage for now, but it's like, again,
Correct.
though, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying, and I'm saying that if somehow, again, you had a ghost from the past show up and start wooing you or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever, and
yeah,
throwing money at you or whatever, and you were like, responded in that way, like, oh, well, maybe yada yada. Yeah, of course, I'd be devastated. Um, and again, that's what we're talking about tonight. It
yeah.
would depend. What would happen next would depend on how much time passed between when we severed ties
Yes.
and
For
when
me
when
anyway.
you would
Yeah.
reach out to me. You know.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I tend to think that if I did it to you, you would be able to accept a lot longer um lapse of time than I could. I
Well,
think I
you
would
got
go.
13 years on me, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I just feel like, well, no, I mean, I'm not saying like you're in love with me more than I am. No, it's just
No,
that
but you're right. You
you're
have a
different
different
than I am.
personality type than I do as well. You
Yeah,
put up walls quicker than I do.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so I think
Which is
that
absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's probably preferable if you're a survivor type. So
yes, correct. Um, but and I was just thinking of an interesting segue into another topic that we could do next time. And gosh darn it, if I haven't
yeah.
already lost it. We were talking, gosh, um, what were you talking about?
Well, I was distracted by this idiot that spammed us.
Oh,
We've reached a new level of popularity. We now have our first spamming troll.
yeah. What
This
is this red penalty, red card, penalty, red card,
Yeah,
penalty?
I don't know. Canada Dry on Ice was the person's name. The last two messages that he sent was brutal and figure it out. So apparently, this person is someone from one of our pasts that wants us to figure out who they are. I'm just going to go ahead and say IDGAF. You know what that means. So
I didn't take it that way. I took it as at first he was spamming us, and then he was saying it was brutal watching us, and then he had an opinion which was
no, because he actually said right before that, he said, "This is BRUTL. This is
yeah, this is
brutal."
brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think whoever they are wants us to guess who they are.
Oh,
Which again, IDGAF. But we do have another viewer on the live cam. So hello, whoever you are. Say hi to us in the comments or not. We love our lurkers too. So,
yeah.
um,
Gosh, I wish I could remember what it was that I was going to talk about.
Well,
because it was
so we had gone over obviously the letter that was sent to someone that you had broken up with stating that you were my person, I screwed up, and I'm sorry or whatever. I just wanted you to know that you really were my person and I effed it up. Then, of course, we talked about all the implications, how we would react to that, right? And then we brought it home, right, with the unfiltered real part of it. What if this happened with us? Like, what if I did this to you and vice versa? And I got very specific, like, what if it happened with my ex, right? And you suddenly saw this and that. So I think that's kind of where we ended the topic, right, or the discussion was.
this is what I get for not interrupting.
Ah,
When I don't interrupt, I
you
forget.
totally should interrupt me. I love it when you interrupt me. It's sexy.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to interrupt in the future because it was good and now I
Hell
don't
yeah.
remember what it was.
So, I don't mind interrupting you. You should interrupt the shit out of me.
I
I love
know.
it.
I know you don't mind interrupting me.
Ah,
Yeah, I don't remember what it was and it was good,
well,
darn
you
it.
know what my
So,
response to that is, right?
what?
It must not have been that important.
Oh, yes, I know. No, it was good. It was good. It's just that's how shitty my memory is, especially with my
Oh,
cancer
baby.
fog.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
okay.
I don't remember. I don't remember,
Well, so
but
let's bring it back around to the main topic. If someone broke up with you, sent you a letter saying that I screwed up, I shouldn't have broken up with you. So we both had stated that our response, if we responded at all, and you definitely would respond, would depend on how much time had passed. I would say if more than a few weeks had passed, I may not even respond
really?
because my gut response would be to really lay into them, and let them know,
Well,
yeah,
that's
you
why I
effed
would
up, and
take
here's all the reasons you effed up, and look, here's
well,
video evidence of me moving on, effort,
that's why I wouldn't respond
immediately.
spontaneously. I would take my time, but I would definitely respond. I would hope that you would respond. Really?
Yeah. Oh, are you planning on doing something like this to me, woman?
You think if that happened, you would just not respond to me?
I would probably wait days, if not weeks, before I responded. And I would probably seek counseling before I responded, whether it's from ChatGPT or a therapist or whatever. Because, yeah, I would be harboring such awful feelings. Like you posted a nice Facebook post asking or talking about revenge, right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember quite what you said, but it was something
Well,
along the lines of vengeance is yada yada.
yeah, it was like going back to the old, revenge is best served
Best
cold.
served cold, right?
Yeah,
And I guess I kind of
when
agree
I
with that
say
in a way,
vengeance
just
is
based on my personality. Like if you fuck me over by, failing to realize that you're my person after all of the time that we've invested with each other, um, I wouldn't flame you. I wouldn't try to, attack you in any way, but I would serve a cold version of my revenge, which would be, I think you kind of, though, respond to the same way, right? It would be very polite. It would
yeah,
be very recognizing of your feelings and your thoughts and just pointing
but
out
too bad.
how
Sad
very
for
sad
you.
for you.
Right. I'm so sorry that you're in this position now. So what I posted was it says revenge is a dish best served cold? Question mark. I do not believe revenge is good, hot or cold. Revenge is best forgotten. It probably won't work out the way you want it to. It is a poison that eats away at your soul. Let it go and let it go for you. And that is how I feel about revenge.
Okay, so then you wouldn't respond?
I would, but it would not be with anything vengeful. Period.
I don't know.
Period.
Your response sounded a little cold.
It's cold, but it wasn't it
Aha!
but it's
Oh, but you're
not
saying it doesn't come from a place of vengeance, right?
correct. No, it's cold because that's how I would feel about you. But but it definitely would not be vengeful. I would not be seeking any vengeance. As a matter of fact,
Right, but you recognized, and I don't know if you used me as the template or what, but you recognized that if you sent that back to the person, that they would feel really bad, right?
guilty and bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I do. And I would feel
I mean,
bad
to
for
me,
them.
that's a form of cold revenge. It's knowing that
But
somebody's going to feel bad based on what you said to them.
no, see, I
Would it
don't
not
agree.
be better just not to say anything at all?
No, I don't agree. I don't agree. That in a humane way, that's just not right. That is not revenge. That is just replying to somebody without worrying that it's going to rip their heart out. I mean, it's okay. It is okay at
Hang
times,
on, this logic is fantastic. I know that what I'm about to say to you is going to hurt you, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And I
but
swear it's not intentional. It's not cold revenge.
I'm not saying it maliciously. I am sorry that this is going to hurt you. Look, you made your own bed, and
Okay,
all I'm
then I
doing is
guess my
telling
only
you.
question would be, what is the point then of sending that to them,
The
knowing
point
it's going to
would
hurt
be
them?
just to reply because that's me. I cannot not reply. And
Yes,
so
you got to reply to everybody and their effing
I
uncle. Like, no matter, it
I
doesn't matter if they
do.
insult you, if they,
Yeah.
trash
I
you.
just I can't help it. I have to reply. And I would reply very politely and honestly. So I would tell you. There would be no doubt in your mind that this boat has sailed, that your
Knowing it's
opportunity.
going to hurt them, though. And I guess that's
It doesn't
the little
matter
catch
if it
that
hurts
I'm
them.
kind of getting caught up on is if you know it's going
Well,
to hurt them, isn't that a little bit of revenge? Like,
no, it's
wouldn't it be
not
better just not to
revenge,
say anything at all?
but I don't feel like it's I do revenge. It's some consequence, and
Okay.
I'm sorry for that.
And
But
I,
in
I and
order
I
for
do
it to
like
be
you the way you frame that. Yeah. Free speech, right? Yes, freedom of
well, in
speech,
order for it
but
to
speech
look,
has
look,
consequences, right? So,
look,
yeah,
you
absolutely.
asked me. You reached out to me. If it was revenge, I would have been seeking you out to destroy. And that's not the case because I could have went to my grave and never talked to you again.
I don't know. I think vengeance can be triggered. I don't know, baby.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't agree that it's vengeance. I
I
just don't.
think though maybe you're going off of a little bit of instinct in I would rather reply to them and hurt them a little bit with the truth, at least from my perspective, than not reply at all, which may actually hurt them even more,
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, exactly. Because if I don't reply, there's a few things that are going to happen. One, they're going to forever, and this may be more of a vengeful thing to do. They're going to always wonder why you didn't reply. Did you not get the message? Could you still love them, but you didn't get the message? Do they need to reach out to you again? Did you not reply because you hate them? Did you not reply? I
Yeah, sometimes not knowing is the worst part,
right.
right? The waiting is the hardest
Right, but
part.
I would
You
reply,
want
and
closure, whatever. Because obviously they wanted something, right? They wanted something from you, or they wouldn't have sent it at all.
exactly,
So
and so I am politely going to reply because that's what you do. I'm not gonna lie to you, and I'm not gonna lead you on. I don't want another message from you. So I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm not doing it to hurt you, although I know in my mind, I know that what my words may hurt you. I don't know they're going to. Just because you tell me you made a mistake doesn't mean that you want to get back with me. Okay? So I honestly don't know 100% that this is going to.
yeah, especially if you say those
That's right.
words, right? Like I'm not looking for
That's
anything
right.
here,
And
but
I'm not going to play games.
that feels wrong to me. That feels like when somebody says, I'm not a racist or nothing,
But yes,
but everything they say after proves the fact that
you're
they're
right.
racist,
You're right.
So it's like I'm not looking for anything,
You're
but
right. Except that is a cynical way to look at it because how else would you frame that? If you literally are reaching out to somebody and you have a pure motive, which is just to say, I'm sorry, but I honestly will be fine never talking to you again. How the hell do you say it without prefacing it by saying, I'm not looking for anything here. I just want to tell you I'm sorry. There is no way. So you can look
right.
at
And
it
I think
cynically.
that if I did bother to respond to that person, part of my response would be, you say you're not looking for nothing, right? But clearly you are, or you wouldn't have sent this message in the first place. You're looking for absolution. You're looking for closure. You're looking for understanding. You're looking for sympathy. You're looking for all of the
And
above.
I would write you back so quick. This time I would write you back so quick and say, I wanted nothing but the um, contentment, or I don't know, of my own mind, my own conscience. That's all I was looking for. Honestly, what you
Okay, well,
do,
again,
I
that's
am
kinda
looking for
that's a form of absolution,
correct,
that's
correct.
like
Okay,
going to
okay,
confessional,
correct.
right?
So
If
so
you're
the only
Catholic or
way that
whatever.
I could change the preface is to say, if that was all I was looking for, I guess, but you're still gonna be cynical and you're still gonna think it's more, but I guess I could preface it by saying, the only thing I'm looking for by doing this is to clear my conscience. I feel bad.
Yeah, which I understand, and again, that's absolution.
It is. I
That's you're
understand.
dealing with guilt.
I get it. I get that the person writing it is obviously looking for something. But by saying that, what they were trying to say is, I'm not trying to get back with you. We know this. We know this is what they meant.
Yeah.
Um but because people are cynical, and they are going to think, oh, yeah, you say that, but sure, right, whatever. Okay, fine. So this is a learning podcast. This is why we talk about things. So, people, if in the future you have any reason to reach out to somebody and apologize for something, especially if it comes from a previous relationship, don't just say, I don't want to get back with you. Tell them what your motive is. Tell them what your motive is.
Yeah, and I think you and I would have that, we wouldn't start off with, I'm really not looking for anything, but we would say something like, I feel bad. I want to share my feelings. I want to screw it up with you because you're the one that I was supposed to be with, or whatever. We would definitely phrase it very differently. I cannot believe, okay, I was very skeptical about this topic. I was like, how in the hell are we going to get an entire hour out of this topic? But I will proudly say the words, you were right and I was wrong.
Hey, I've been doing this a while. I know what makes a good topic. I
I
could keep
hope
the
this
conversation
never
going with
happens
just
to
myself.
I hope this never happens to anybody who's listening. But if it has happened to you, yeah, let us know. We'll, we'd love to hear from you. Have you been the person who sends the message, or have you received a message from somebody who realized they screwed up by breaking up with you?
Well, and as we just brought it around to see, this could apply to anything. This could apply to anything. So make sure when you reach out to somebody, hey, one time I had to reach out to a woman who I hadn't talked to in 20 years, but when I had just got divorced and I had 3 kids. Well, I didn't just get divorced. I'd been divorced for about a year and a half. And I had 3 kids and I was rooming with her. We were renting. She had 1 child, I had 3. And, we were very grateful to have each other because, we were able to get a nice place and share the rent. Well, we had been together in there for, I don't know, maybe 6 months. I met somebody and we hit it off and we decided we wanted to live together.
You told me about this. Yeah.
So I went to her and I said, hey, we're going to have to find somebody to take my part of the rent because he and I want to live together. She never forgave me. And I didn't know. I didn't. Huh?
I'm like,
Yeah.
shit.
I was completely clueless. I had no idea that she harbored ill feelings towards me forever. And when I found out at first, I was like, what? That is just, she didn't want me to have my life. I said I wanted to find somebody. We did find somebody. I didn't leave her high and dry, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so 20 years later, I found her on Facebook and I sent her an apology. And I just said, look, I want to apologize to you. I had no idea that it affected you like that, but I am so sorry that I did that. I told you I was your roommate and then I bailed on you. And I know
I would say the lesson there is, and even in this situation, it's never too late to apologize.
No, because you know what? She wrote me back and she said, nobody has ever done that. She's like, that just has been very profound for my life. She's like, you just did something nobody's ever done. And I didn't think anybody ever would. You accepted responsibility and you said you're sorry to me. And that matters. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. That's really cool. And we're still friends on Facebook. We don't really talk, but like each other's stuff occasionally or something, but the point is I apologized to her for something. It didn't have to do with a relationship. So it doesn't matter what it has to do with. If you need to apologize to somebody for something and you preface it with something, make sure you tell them why you're prefacing it. Don't just allude to the fact that, hey, I'm not trying to be your friend. But no, tell them why. Tell them what your motivation is, why you're doing it. This isn't about us. This is about me accepting
Right.
responsibility for what I did and telling you I'm sorry. That's what this is. It's absolution for my conscience. That's what it is.
All right. Well, thank you to all of our lurkers, and yeah, thanks to the spammer too. Sorry we had to block you, but come on, don't be a douche.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, sorry for the block, but I don't know if it blocks him from our channel or just from chatting, but if he can see us, sorry. And thanks for being here, guys. And we will see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.